well as against the Xerneas, so I kind of feel like Nihilego might be coming to this battle, especially considering that Rayquaza is such a strong Pokemon against Primal Groudon. So if you can pair up Rayquaza next to the Nihilego, I feel like that combination could pose a lot of trouble for Melvin.
I think that's going to be a real tough ask for him to get around that. Like you say, the Soak option could be fun, but even if he does manage to Soak the Shedinja, he still has to worry about something like a Moongus. Of course, it's a little bit easier to deal with something like a Groudon. So if Melvin is going to bring that Shedinja, he's going to have to find the perfect opening to use it to win the game. That could be a big ask, especially against a player of Flavio's quality, both of them in top 4. Nobody wanting to give up one game, of course, best of 3, you do have that option, but you don't want to be learning lessons as you play. The leads hit the field, Rayquaza and Nihilego for Flavio, with Groudon and Salamence. The answer from Melvin.
Yeah, so just like we were saying in Team Preview, I feel like this Rayquaza and Nihilego duo is really strong against almost everything that Melvin has to offer. And Melvin, while the Groudon, of course, puts on a lot of pressure on Nihilego, and Salamence is Intimidate, makes Rayquaza's life a little bit more difficult, while also threatening Rayquaza with Double Edge, for example. I feel like if Flavio gets some of the reads correct, he can target down the Salamence or he could target down the Groudon. So it's really up to Melvin to try and avoid that, really. While he could, of course, try and set up a Tailwind with his Salamence, and I doubt that there's anything Flavio can do to stop that. It could be at the cost of losing his Salamence. So this very first turn is already really, really crucial, and both of them, well, I think we're going to see a very different game from the set we saw before with Wolf and all the positioning. I think this one is going to be about all the damage.
Yeah, I think when you lead Rayquaza and Nihilego, you don't really have a choice apart from trying to deal big damage as soon as possible. So Flavio definitely having the option to try and turn up the heat a little bit here with some of those huge attacks. We are going to obviously have to go through the Mega Evolutions to start out this turn. Salamence getting some bigger wings, being a bit more of a trouble, and obviously changing its ability up as well. Rayquaza does exactly the same, decides to Mega Evolve, gets access to Delta Stream. That's a change up from the normal airlock that it has. That's going to make a weather control battle just a little bit different.
Yeah, so now let's see though, who's gonna protect? Okay, it's probably a Protect Tailwind play. Now let's see whether Flavio read into this. So there is the attack from Salamence. It is gonna be that Tailwind, but what do Rayquaza and Nihilego do?
Yeah, at what cost are we going to have this?
That's Earth Power into the Groudon.
Yep, there's no damage there, but we've seen Nihilego does carry the Z move, does carry Continental Crush. That, of course, based off Power Gem. Meaning this Salamence could get knocked out exactly in response for setting up the Tailwind, and if that's what Melvin's going for, he'll be able to bring something in to immediately start to capitalize on it. We do have to find out if, of course, the Nihilego is strong enough to do it. The Z move definitely helping though. And you have to remember that there is the Delta Stream in play. It's going to leave that Salamence clinging on.
Okay, so now this is probably not something that Flavio expected, but it might not be the end of things, because Rayquaza does have extreme speed, so he can pick off Salamence right away, and that actually kind of stalls out one turn of Tailwind, because if Salamence was to stay in, then the next turn we would probably be in a very similar situation as if it was knocked out. But so I don't think it's too bad, but of course, Melvin doesn't want to see that, he sees this potential extreme speed coming and is switching straight into his Xerneas, and now that is of course changing a lot.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting choice to see if he can capitalize on that with his Tailwind. Obviously the turn's very limited. Nihilego throwing out a Protect, doesn't want to get caught by anything, doesn't want to be messing around with any of those big hits from Groudon, doesn't want to get caught by them. This time Rayquaza will connect with the Earth Power, a super effective hit, bringing Groudon down to just under half of its health.
Yeah, nicely done, and once again, I don't think that Salamence surviving that move was so bad for Flavio. We will see how the impact of Salamence later on. But now, I feel like while Flavio still has both his Pokemon at full HP, he was able to do a lot of damage to both Groudon and Salamence, and Tailwind has already been up for 2 turns, essentially. So Melvin really needs to make use of it very, very soon.
He's got this turn and one more to capitalize on it. So some smart protecting from Flavio, maybe even a little bit of switching as well. Could essentially burn that Tailwind down, and then as soon as the Salamence comes back, if he's trying to set up another Tailwind, then as long as the Rayquaza's in play, he's going to be able to just stop that with extreme speed. One of the switches we're going to see is Nihilego leaving the field for Amoonguss. Amoonguss well known for dealing with Xerneas, and if Melvin gets a little bit greedy trying to go for it, the Amoonguss could maybe just take that away from him very, very quickly. We'll see if he has those options to do that. Of course, the Geomancy going off in one complete turn due to the power-up. Been a bit of a staple of the video game championships whenever it's legal. We have to see what Flavio is doing. If he's getting knockouts in Melvin's Tailwind, that's just good value here.
Yeah, definitely. So Groudon, of course, will hit first. Looks like we're seeing it, another Precipice Blades, but the switch into Amoonguss, kind of clever. Of course, Amoonguss able to take that attack way better than the Nihilego would have been. However, taking almost 50 or over 50% at the cost of Groudon being knocked out. So now, whatever comes in here for Melvin has to have some damage potential against the Amoonguss. But yeah, I think Salaman's probably too weak because, could be knocked out with that extreme speed. So yeah, he's sending in his Tapu Fini, but now, do you think Moonblast is enough to knock out the Amoonguss from this range?
It's going to be close. I mean, we've seen different roles over the course of the weekend. The big thing here, though, is this Rayquaza, has to be very, very careful. It would be great to just bring the Salamence in, throw out those area late boosted attacks, but the Rayquaza keeps that in check. Yeah. Obviously, Melvin's got the perfect answer to it in this Xerneas. I don't know if we do see anything on the Tapu Fini that's going to be a reliable answer to Amoonguss.
Probably not that. I mean, Icy Wind is, of course, looks tempting here.
I mean, that's one option. It's going to be super effective, but it's not exactly coming off a crazy high special attack stat, so you could be getting real close, and if you leave that Amoonguss, you're not going to be in the best of positions. One bit of respite that Melvin does have, though, he did manage, of course, to set up the Misty Terrain, so there's options removed from the...
Moonblast going into the Protect, and there is a Nature's Madness now going into that Rayquaza, and Flavio, he's leaving his Mega Rayquaza in at the face of a boosted Xerneas, but it looks like it will pay off. Dragon Ascent, Rayquaza climbing up into the sky, hitting down on the Tapu Fini. He knows that he still has 2 poison types left, so it feels like he doesn't have to deal with the Xerneas right away, and for the time being will focus onto the Tapu Fini instead.
Yeah, that Tapu Fini there, taking a good amount of damage. Rayquaza, though, lowering its stats, its defense is coming down a little bit because, of course, the secondary effect of Dragon Ascent. The question is still being asked of Melvin, though. Can he knock out Amoonguss? Of course, he doesn't need anything more than a Dazzling Gleam to knock out this Rayquaza. This Tapu Fini does need to show that it has something to assist with that knockout. He's not going to try and gamble on that, though. The Moonblast just coming down once again. Amoonguss not able to take that hit. I think Melvin's just put himself in such a fantastic position now. Rayquaza is desperate to get some return knockouts. Another Dragon Ascent. This time, just trying to keep going. It's going to put its defenses super, super low as Xerneas takes that like an absolute champion. This could honestly mean that Tapu Fini may be able to get a knockout or get a lot closer to it. Icy Wind, single target, Delta Stream's in play.
Should be able to take it with the Assault Vest that we would expect on that Rayquaza carrying both Earth Power and Dragon Ascent. Though, I think Dragon Ascent on the Tapu Fini was a nice play to get it into KO range for the Nihilego. And I think we don't know the last Pokemon of Flavio, but Nihilego can now come in, Sludge Bomb the Tapu Fini if it wanted to, and that's a guaranteed KO in that slot. Even with Salamence still being around in the back, that cannot switch into the Sludge Bomb. So in the end, it'll be down to Xerneas to knock out this Nihilego, and that's going to be super difficult. So something that I could see happening is Nihilego trying to KO everything else before it will try to work on that Xerneas with the Clear Smog that we have seen in Flavio's top 8 game, and then follow it up with another move to knock it out. It's still pretty tough to call. We don't know Flavio's last Pokemon, and if it is his own Xerneas, then it cannot really do all too much. But there is the switch, so we will see and get confirmation. It is his own Xerneas.
We're going to get all 4 Pokemon revealed from Flavio. Maybe something he was looking to avoid, but keeping that game in complete control.
Looks satisfied.
There's a fist bump. Yeah, he knows that he's made the right call. His Xerneas protecting itself. Nihilego Sludge Bomb heads directly towards Tapu Fini. And Tapu Fini's going to get knocked out by that big hit. This Nihilego becomes an even bigger problem right now. Yeah, because it's about to get a Beast Boost. So now there's nothing it cannot knock out. All it needs to do is get through some attacks potentially from this Xerneas and Salamence. But honestly, in response, Salamence is easy for anything to knock out. And if we do end up in a situation that has Nihilego just against the Xerneas one-on-one, that's going to be an easy win for Flavio.
Yeah, and Salamence cannot use Double Edge to really hurt the Xerneas, because then it would feign to the recoil. So the only offensive option that Salamence really has would be that Hyper Voice, and that's definitely not enough to deal with Xerneas and Nihilego. So I feel like Flavio has played himself into a perfect position. I think what he needs to do now is just go for a Dazzling Gleam with his own Xerneas, and maybe either like the Clear Smog into his opponent's Xerneas that just protected. So we are seeing a very powerful Dazzling Gleam, followed up by that Hyper Voice. Oh no, it's actually a Tailwind. So yeah, Melvin is trying to get up his speed even further. However, yeah, we are seeing the Clear Smog, and that will remove all the boosts from Xerneas.
Yeah, I think that's just making sure that he's got some kind of speed going on there. Flavio feels pretty comfortable right now, comfortable enough to just set up his Xerneas, make sure that he's at least matching the speed boost from that Tailwind. And his Geomancy is only going to take a turn. Melvin's, with it being his second of the game, is going to be a 2-turn endeavor. And I do wonder, you know, does this Salamence have something that it feels like we can maybe try and get through this Nihilego with? Most of them don't, but it just seems like a very odd play from Melvin to try that setup when he needs to be taking knockouts.
Yeah, Salamence though making it through the turn somehow, even though it's at such low HP. And yeah, once again though, Melvin now with the speed advantage, but I don't think it will help him too much. He would need to knock out the Nihilego, but at the moment, Nihilego, like if you could open your Pokédex and choose one Pokemon you would want to have on the field, I mean, against the Salamence and the Xerneas, well, you might come across like maybe Stakataka, but yeah, like Nihilego is up there. And,
Nihilego with the obviously the rock type attacks to do with Salamence, the poison type attacks to do with Xerneas. And honestly, Melvin just doesn't really have the options here. He doesn't have a way to knock out Nihilego. This Xerneas is locked into Geomancy for another turn to try and get its stats back up in parity with Flavio's, and it's just not going to be enough. The Salamence is going to try, though. It's going to do a whole lot of damage with the Double Edge, but it is just going to knock itself out, meaning all this Nihilego needs to do to put Flavio one game up is going to be able to do that. It may not even be needed. The critical hit from the Dazzling Gleam. Obviously, the Geomancy boost wasn't completed there. Just means he's going to be able to win the game off that one. So Melvin getting into some good positions, but Flavio battling back, and that Nihilego being so important.
Yeah, really well done there by Flavio. And yeah, with the Nihilego and Rayquaza combination, right off the bat, he knew that he could afford letting his opponent set up the Tailwind. And as I was saying earlier, it in the end felt like it wasn't that bad for him that the Salamence was able to take that Continental Crush from Nihilego due to the Delta Stream. So in the end, while Melvin had the Salamence, the Mega Salamence still in play, he was forced to switch it out, and that cost him yet another turn. And under Tailwind, you really want to be utilizing those turns as efficiently as possible, and that was just not possible for Melvin this time around. So I feel like he probably has to do some sort of adaptation for that second game, and though I'm not really sure what that could be. Of course, we could be seeing that Shedinja.
Well, the Shedinja, you know, it would have struggled, I think, in this matchup. There were certainly answers to it over on Flavio's side of the field. As you mentioned before, though, the one play would be a potential soak into it, and limiting those answers, limiting those options that you have. The only one, I think, being the Amoonguss after that point to hit a water type for super effective damage. And if you can find a way to knock out that Amoonguss, you're going to be in great shape. I think Melvin, though, seeing the Amoonguss in game one could be put off a little bit by the thought of bringing it. Even if you make all of that investment to make the soak Shedinja play, if you haven't dealt with the Amoonguss, then you're in big trouble. And I think the other concern is if you do that, you have to leave one of the Pokemon above it on the bench, and that means you're giving up either your Salamence, your Xerneas, or your Groudon. That's a lot to ask on this team that really functions well with all three of those firing on all cylinders. So it's an option, don't get me wrong. Maybe Melvin feels like he's going to have to look at it with his back against the wall, but Flavio isn't going to let that go down easily, and he applied so much offensive pressure, even taking knockouts while Melvin was trying to play in Tailwind.
Yeah, maybe the soak strategy could have been something for Melvin to try in a game one scenario. But now, like if he wants to like lay it on the table, it has to work, or else he's eliminated from this tournament, as we are in the knockout stages. So I'm pretty sure he's thinking about it. But yeah, it looks like he might not try to do it, as he's leading with the same as he did in the first game. It's going to be Primal Groudon and Mega Salamence.
Yeah, he's got exactly the same, and I doubt he's left his Xerneas on the bench. So that strategy we've been talking about probably not coming to the fore. Speaking of leads, though, Flavio's changed his quite drastically. From Rayquaza and Nihilego, we've gone to Xerneas and Incineroar, and I think this puts down a whole lot of pressure, particularly on the Salamence over on Melvin's side. We do talk a little bit about how it comes down to you set up Tailwind, you get knocked out immediately. Xerneas would definitely enjoy the privilege of knocking that out very, very quickly if it gets afforded the option. So we'll see how Melvin responds to this. Not only do you have the Geomancy threat from Flavio, Melvin's also got to deal with a potential fake out as well.
Yeah, so Flavio definitely switched not only the order, but also some of the Pokemon that he brought. This time, Incineroar making an appearance, as it wasn't there the last time. Melvin bringing out his own Incineroar right now. Yeah, for the option to go for a fake out next turn. But it seems like Flavio probably free to set up Geomancy if he really wants to.
Yeah, if he's gone for a fake out on this Groudon, it's going to be a really, really easy turn from there. Does connect with Groudon, damage is negligible, but it still stops him from moving this turn, as Xerneas does decide to set up its Geomancy. We've talked about it a lot over the weekend, I've talked about it with yourself, I've talked about it with Sebi. Setting up your Geomancy first can put you in such a commanding position, and right now, this is probably where you want to be with it. Getting that set up, of course there is the threat of fake out on Melvin's side, but a simple protect gets you through that turn.
Yeah, the only thing that I can really think of what would really help Melvin right here would be a fake out and Roar combination with Xerneas. If he has Roar on either Groudon or maybe even the Incineroar, then that would be something for him to look into, because yeah, he needs to, of course, get rid of the Xerneas as soon as possible, but being intimidated on his Groudon and with Incineroar not being known as the most powerful Pokemon, it could be very, very difficult. And yeah, Melvin has to watch out that this boosted Xerneas doesn't just run away and steal the game.
It's not an easy one to knock out with either. When I was talking to Flavio between games, he did say that, hey, this is a bulky one. This is a really tough one. We're going to see the fake out land from Melvin's side. That's going to land into the Xerneas slot. So Flavio feeling pretty confident that he's got a good board position on this one, as a U-turn follows up from the Incineroar over on Flavio's side as well. He gets afforded that opportunity to mix up the game a little bit.
Yeah, and Incineroar going before the Groudon might be a big indication of what we are going to see, as usually Groudon is faster than Incineroar, but of course Roar being a move with decreased priority, we can kind of expect it to come out, and there it is, roaring away. That Xerneas is so afraid it has to run back into the Pokeball, and Nihilego will be dragged out.
Yeah, I think that's the opening animation from the original Pokemon Ruby version. Groudon having a roar, obviously not the original Primal version, but it's still a fantastic move, and that puts Melvin right back in the game. So the board's completely changed on Flavio's side now. Nihilego and Rayquaza back to his original lead, essentially put in play against Groudon and Incineroar on Melvin's side. So there's been a lot of shuffling. There's been a Geomancy taken out of play, which is really big for Melvin, but it's still not going to be the easiest position. I don't think either trainer has a very clear or open advantage, but it could have one carved out, particularly on Flavio's side in this next turn.
Yeah.
Some of those big attacks, those Z moves from Nihilego, really could open the door for some big plays.
Yeah, I think Flavio probably wants to go with the Continental Crush into the Incineroar slot, because from what we've seen, there's nothing that can really take this attack very well. The Salamence is not in Mega form yet, and we expect the last Pokemon probably to be that Xerneas, which, while Continental Crush is not super effective against it, should also do a lot of damage. So a combination of, like Earth Power into what was the Groudon and Continental Crush in the Incineroar slot looks kind of safe for Flavio. So let's see if that's what he's going for. Melvin definitely expecting the Earth Power to come in Groudon's way. That's why he's switching into the Salamence, but yeah, let's see if he can somehow protect his Incineroar.
Yeah, we are going to see an Earth Power. It heads towards Incineroar, not protected at all, taking a good amount of damage, not as much as some of the big hits we've seen. And Flavio had a contented head nod while Melvin was switching Pokemon. Looks pretty pleased with his choices right now, and we'll see if he can just carve out one of those immediate Pokemon number advantages. Continental Crush, I'm not even going to try and read it in Flavio's native language, it's just not for me. We'll be following up into Incineroar. So after the Earth Power has gone down, Incineroar's going to get caught by Continental Crush and be removed from play. First Pokemon felled on Melvin's side, and the Beast Boost coming through on Nihilego.
Yeah, really nicely done there by Flavio, anticipating his opponent's switching game, and that way he didn't even have to deal with any sort of maybe Assault Vest on that Incineroar or any other way that it could survive the Continental Crush. Instead, a clean knockout and a Beast Boost on Nihilego for all the effort. So now Nihilego sitting at increased special attack. Now Power Gem would probably be enough to get rid of these Salamence, especially considering that now the harsh sunlight is up again.
Yep.
And yeah, Salamence does not enjoy being like his getting his weaknesses removed.
Yeah,
so,
not a chance.
Yeah, this is really difficult once again for Melvin. He did get the Groudon in, however, so that is one Pokemon he needs to deal with the Nihilego.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Nihilego is kind of answered by the Groudon with those Precipice Blades, but Rayquaza, as we've seen over the course of the set, it does have Earth Power, and as long as Flavio can weave in maybe those Protects, maybe a couple switches as well, would be able to put himself in a very, very good position to try and knock things out here. Groudon's only damage taken so far is from that very, very early kind of chipping away that was barely even chip damage. Salamence determining it's time to Mega Evolve, time to get Aerialate as an ability, and also do what Salamence has done best, set up a Tailwind. This is quite late in the game, but he's going to need to capitalize on it as best as possible. Groudon getting caught with an Earth Power here. That's a whole lot of damage, as Nihilego immediately following up with a Power Gem.
Yeah,
the Power Gem.
Double target, knocking out the Primal Groudon.
Yeah.
Getting yet another Beast Boost, and although Melvin has the speed advantage after Tailwind, it looks like it's not going to be enough, because this Nihilego is really running away with the game, and if the last Pokemon of Melvin is that Xerneas that we expect him to have, there it is, Nihilego once again in such a strong position against both of these special type attacking Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys could hear it here, but the crowd has determined that this is Flavio's game. They seem pretty excited. He's got a Pokemon advantage on numbers and typing, I'd argue, as well.
Yeah.
That Nihilego, as we mentioned before, able to answer Salamence and Xerneas. Really nice play there, though. Seeing the Tailwind was coming, knowing, hey, trying to stretch my resources could be a little bit hard. I'll just take out one of your Pokemon that's trying to capitalize on that Tailwind before you're afforded that opportunity.
Yeah, incredible play once again by Flavio, choosing the right target again and again after he has already played so well in the first game, making the adaptation, but in the end it's once again the Nihilego plus Rayquaza combination that I highlighted initially that is giving Melvin all the trouble. So now, well, again, Melvin has the Tailwind and he still has the option to go for a Geomancy with his Xerneas if he wants to, but yeah, that's just not enough. Double Edge not really doing the damage to Nihilego. Xerneas, while going for that Geomancy, I mean, Nihilego is still at a doubled special attack set, so he probably doesn't even need to go for the Clear Spark. Instead, maybe Sludge Bomb is just enough to get the KO.
It kind of brings that parity to things, right? Like, you get 2 boosts in special defense, but then there's 2 boosts in special attack for this Nihilego. So it kind of works out. Nihilego's not going to try with the Clear Smog immediately, just Sludge Bombing. Not enough, though. No poison as well. Xerneas heavily damaged. Did get his Geomancy set up. That could be big. But once again, Melvin in a position where he has to try and basically win the game with nothing but Xerneas. He's doing a little better than last game because his Salamence has more health.
Yeah, that's true. And also some initial damage done to this Nihilego. Of course, now Flavio has the option to go for Fake Out. Somehow, yeah, Melvin needs something. Like, he needs to land Moonblast on everything, essentially. And then there's still also Extreme Speed waiting in the back. There's this bulky Xerneas from his opponent still waiting in the back. And yeah, but if there's one Pokemon that can turn around a game like this, it's a boosted Xerneas.
Yeah, it's a boosted Xerneas in the Tailwind. I don't think the Tailwind's too necessary, but it's a nice little bonus there as well. Xerneas knows there's a lot riding on it, decides to just protect for this turn, as Incineroar will start throwing attacks that way. There's going to be a big Hyper Voice here from the Salamence, just trying to get more damage down, just trying to do as much as possible. Nihilego doesn't try and keep going on to this Xerneas, though. Salamence felled by a critical hit Power Gem. That means it literally is just Xerneas. The Xerneas has to knock out Nihilego immediately. That is its only option right now. I don't really see too many options here for Melvin. If by some absolute miracle he can land big Dazzling Gleam every turn.
He would need to Dazzling Gleam and probably critical hit both of them, and even then I'm not sure if that is enough, because if Incineroar gets off an attack like Flare Blitz, then Extreme Speed from Rayquaza of Flavio would definitely be enough to pick up the KO. So yeah, Melvin knows this as well. Goes for the Dazzling Gleam, but let's see. Oh, it comes close. Actually KOs the Nihilego with a critical hit, but does not knock out the Incineroar. So this is going to activate a Barrier on top of things. And yeah, if this is a Flare Blitz, then this game should be over. There it is coming out. Both players shaking hands. Flablets coming into the Cernus. It is enough for the knockout, and Flavio Del Pidio will advance to the finals tomorrow.
Melvin, another top 4, another game where he's just not able to do it. Felled by Flavio. The crowd giving a good chant for him. He looks pretty pleased with that one. We see them there pretty excited.